From Lagos, Nigeria, this is News Central. I'm Adeshawa Josh. Our top stories tonight. Motorists in Lagos groan following bridge closure amid counter orders from the state governor and the Minister of Works. INEC stores petition seeking recall from Senator Natasha Akpoti-Uduaghan over failure to meet constitutional requirements. And world economy faces threat following President Trump's tariff announcement as Canada retaliates.
In business, World Bank approves $1.08 billion concessional funding for Nigeria.
And in sports, Women's African Volleyball Championship serves off in Abuja with 16 clubs from 11 countries in attendance. Details in a moment.
Welcome everyone. Tonight begins right now. We begin tonight in Lagos, Nigeria, where millions of residents are reeling from the impact of an ill-conceived renovation of the Independence Bridge on Lagos Island, which kept motorists on standstill for hours on Wednesday and Thursday. And though the Minister of Works, David Umahi, has ordered the immediate reopening of the bridge to ease the gridlock, Lagos State Governor Babajide Sanwo-Olu suggests there are plans to keep the bridge closed for weeks to come, further suggesting a disconnect between the two arms of government on how to renovate a critical piece of federal infrastructure in the megacity. News Center's lead correspondent, Barinada Mpigi, has the report.
The chaos on Lagos roads on April 2nd was triggered by this. Maintenance work on the Independence Bridge. Frustrated commuters were left stranded for hours, battling gridlock that stretched for miles.
They say 2 months they are going to close. It's going to be big problem suffer. Because this is two bridges linking only all your island and all everything. I don't know how much we're going to be suffer. Supply water will come because this side no industries. Industry is this side. So everything, food and everything should become this side also. How we're going to be suffer?
I just coming from Lekki to 1004 Estate. I take more than 4 hours to reach 1004 Estate yesterday. And now I just want to go to Semes to get some material to do my work. And I have to trek from 1004 to this body camp now. I'm looking to get towards TBS, whether I can get a bus. You can see how I'm sweating.
By the morning of April 3rd, government officials arrived to inspect the situation. First, the Lagos State Commissioner for Transportation came, followed by the Governor, Babajide Sanwo-Olu, who apologized to Lagosians for the hardship caused by the closure.
Because of the inadequate communication, and I will take responsibility, ineffective communication because they had started even before then, so you just assume that people are aware. No, you have to continue. Communication is enforcement. You have to continue before, people now make alternative plans to be able to use other routes and other, corridors, out of it. And so one of the things that
the governor also addressed the statement put out by the Minister of Works, David Umahi, ordering the immediate reopening of the bridge.
My brother, my friend, the Honorable Minister, we are the ones on ground right here, and you can see for yourself. It's not about name mentioning or blame game or anything. We are in the same government, and we know that the intendment are good intentions. Like I keep saying, it is because there is a disaster for over 3 years. If you have a contract for over 3 years and you've not been able to fully implement the thing, if anything happens, you will be one of the people that will say that, why did you not take this difficult decision?
However, just hours later, the Honorable Minister of Works flew in from Abuja for his own assessment. To the surprise of many, he contradicted the governor's timeline, ordering that a temporary solution be put in place within 3 days. This, he said, would allow the bridge to reopen for 2 weeks before full repairs continue.
Unfortunately, when the bridge was to be closed, I was not informed. The controller did that on her own, and it's very unfortunate because for a bridge to be closed, especially in Lagos, as you know, has been the tradition, I should be informed. And so there will be consequences, disciplinary action for this. So what we are doing now is to restore the bridge temporarily within the next 3 days. By Sunday, this place will be totally open. And then after 2 weeks, we will look at the settlement. And then we will take out 3 days to put the permanent structure.
The conflicting statements have left many Lagosians wondering, how did such a major project begin without proper coordination? And with the minister hinting at possible sanctions, the big question remains, who will be held accountable? For now, commuters can only hope that the temporary fix will ease their suffering. But this incident has once again highlighted concerns over government coordination in handling critical infrastructure projects. No blame game, says the governor. We want to give the people the best experience on the bridge. There may be sanctions, says the minister. Nobody should take actions without his knowledge. But for the people, all they want is safety and convenience of movement. The Independence Bridge drama continues, and the people clearly hope that when the bridge is completely done, it will be safe and movement will be restored. In Lagos for News Central, Barinada Mpigi.
Now let's bring in Kunle Adebajo, former president of the Nigerian Institution of Structural Engineers and the managing director of Unveils and Partners Nigeria Limited. He joins me from Lagos. Earlier you were on the news and we thought you're the right man for this subject. So thank you so much for coming on the program tonight.
You're welcome. Good evening.
So tell me, what kind of structural assessments or even inspections would be required to determine the bridge is safe for reopening, considering both the recent orders and concerns about functionality?
Okay, good evening, and I commiserate with Lagosians on the trauma that we all went through in the last 24 hours. Specifically to your question, a bridge is a very important structure. It, as you know, conveys a lot of cars every day, lorries, humans. So it needs to be obviously robust enough. It needs to be safe. And so normally there's a need for continuous and periodic maintenance of the bridge. Engineers would inspect it. They would make sure that there's nothing that is going astray. And of course, as our infrastructure ages, as everything gets older, there is always the need to make sure that we rehabilitate it so that it can still do and serve the function. So this is what must have happened. We believe so, that the various ministries have looked at it, engineers have looked at it, and they've come to the conclusion that there's a need for work to be done. Listening to the governor of Lagos State, he implies that this is well overdue. I think that's even a cause for concern, not just because it's overdue by 3 years, but because some of us in the industry are not necessarily aware of it. And I think that might be part of the issues. I think it's very important that information is disseminated and it's shared and collaboration takes place.
Right, Mr. Adebajo, what do you mean by some of us in the industry were not aware? What are you referring to here?
I start from the fact that the minister said he didn't know that the bridge was to be closed. The professional bodies like the Nigerian Society of Engineers, Nigerian Institution of Structural Engineers, to my knowledge, are also not aware and have not been carried along. But you know, that is not in itself necessarily indicating that there's a bad thing. The important thing is that professionals have looked at it and they feel that there's a need for rehabilitation. My concern, and the bigger concern, is that the implications of closing the bridge go well beyond just you know, what you come across every day. This is a major thing, a major operation in a mega city like Lagos State, and so there should have been a lot more taken into consideration before the bridge was closed.
Can you give me an example of some of the things that should have been taken into consideration before embarking on this sort of renovation?
Yes, I can certainly do that. But before it appears as if everything is gloomy, I think I should say that there are some things that have been done well. The first thing, of course, is that they have decided to do the maintenance of the bridge, and that's very important because it means then that we won't suddenly, it's proactivity. It means that we won't suddenly find that the bridge collapses or is unable to be used. So that's a plus point. I also think one of the other plus points was that they did put some signs around parts of Lagos. I will give half a mark for that because it didn't really give the full information. And even when it says Independence Bridge being closed, I think a lot of people I spoke with don't even know what or where Independence Bridge was. So absolutely. I think they could have been done better. Now, coming back to, so those are some of the positive things. Coming to the areas that should have had improvement. First and foremost, traffic management. It's a major thing. It's not just about having last mile on the road. You need to control the flow. You need to anticipate what is going to happen and make it happen in a smooth and logical way. Of course, there will be inconveniences, but it will be managed, and that's very important. There should also have been a lot of other provisions. For instance, you can have park and ride where people would have been asked to leave their cars at a point and you ferry them in by bus. And when I mention ferry, even the waterways as well should be enhanced. So I think there are a lot of things that should have been put in place so that we didn't get this type of...
Does this then suggest a lack of absolute no plan? Like someone just woke up and decided to shut down that bridge?
I think it sounds very funny, and I think many who are watching it play out between different parties will just wonder. It's not the best. I know we have very excellent engineers. Let me
also come in here quickly. Does it then surprise you or worry you or concern you that at the time Governor Sanwo-Olu went to the media to apologize, I'm wondering, a lot of people are wondering, where the Lagos State Commissioner for Transportation is and the head of the agency of LASMA, because clearly Governor Sanwo-Olu is not LASMA, neither is he the Commissioner for Transportation, who's supposed to be addressing this. How do you see that? How did that come across to you?
Well, I won't be dragged into too much of the politics. I'm a professional engineer, but I think it just underscores what we are saying. That better coordination, better collaboration. But of course, the governor, as the number one citizen who has the responsibility, has done what he's got to do, which is to come out and apologize. I think what was lacking was what's going to be done different. It shouldn't be a ping pong of we'll close it, we won't close it. It should actually be to say we're going to put these particular precautions in place. We're going to put these particular methods in place to make sure that we don't end up with what we had yesterday. I actually went through it. I was in there for almost 8 hours. And got home at 3.
I mean, I understand. I totally hear you, and I understand, and I do not mean to put you in a tight corner by wondering, just saying out loud and playing the devil's advocate here, what a lot of people are wondering what went wrong. Clearly, the governor has apologized for lack of adequate communication. That's a huge gap. Like, there's a whole spectrum to cover there. But moving forward, I wanted to know how you assess the potential long-term effect of reopening a bridge that may require extensive repairs. Clearly, the Minister of Works wants it reopened and perhaps just some maintenance work. The governor is suggesting that it may reopen, maybe closed down for sure for proper extensive repairs. What is your take on that? What should actually professionally be done to take care of that bridge?
Well, one of the beauties of engineering as a profession is that you are actually having to balance a lot of various factors and parameters. There's never a single way to solve a problem. You are always contending with what is important is the safety of the people, the safety of the infrastructure, so that cannot be compromised. What I therefore think is we need to have a mix between what the governor is saying and what the minister is saying, and that is, yes, we need a phased open and a phased closing. It can't be a total thing, because Lagos won't work in such a situation. But at the same time, we can't ignore that there is work to be done, maintenance to be done, and that must also be implemented. So what we engineers do is we take the supposed mission impossible and make it possible. But you only do that by collaboration, by giving deep thought to all the various issues and engaging the stakeholders as well. I think Lagos population, the Lagos citizens have been let down because this just came out of the blues. There should have been a lot more publicity, people actually being advised not to come into Lagos if they don't have to. And if they're coming in, giving them various options and alternatives. So there's quite a lot to be done. It's not just a quick fix, as either side seems to be almost implying.
Just want to, because I felt like I poked the bear when I asked you that very critical, somewhat political question, but it's just logical to ask that question. We were supposed to have Adebayo Taufik, the director of the Public Affairs and Enlightenment Department, somebody from LASMA, on the show, and he pulled out at the last minute, saying that the governor instructed him not to speak to the press, and he's just received a directive not to talk anymore. Fair enough, he's trying to protect his job. Clearly there's a whole lot going on here, but it is the people that end up suffering. So we hope that whatever communication needs to go on to make sure there's a smooth running and fixing of that breach, so that we can just live our lives as taxpayers in the state. Thank you so much.
I think your conclusion is correct. And I will just say that Lagos State is so important, commerce-wise and everything else. So we can't allow this to happen.
Absolutely.
We must never allow it to happen again.
Absolutely. All right then, thank you so much. Mr. Kunle Adebayo, former president of the Nigerian Institution of Structural Engineers and the managing director of Unveils and Partners Nigeria Limited. Thank you for saving the day, for coming on the show to speak to us. Thank you.
Welcome. Thank you.
We'll take a short break now. When we come back, we have more stories for you tonight. Do stay with us. Welcome back. You're watching Tonight on News Central. I'm Adeshawa Josh. Senator Natasha Akpoto-Uduaghan is breathing a sigh of relief after the Independent National Electoral Commission announced that the petition seeking her recall falls short of the constitutional requirement. According to INEC, the petition failed to garner the necessary 50% signatures from registered voters in the constituency, as stipulated in Section 69, subsection A of the 1999 Constitution as amended. The petition, submitted on March the 24th by some members of Kogi Central constituency, accused Senator Akpoto-Uduaghan of gross misconduct, abuse of office, evasion of due process, and a litany of actions that embarrassed the people of Kogi Central and tainted the integrity of the Nigerian Senate. However, INEC's verification exercise has put the brakes on the recall process. In other news, the sole administrator of Rivers State, retired Vice Admiral Ibok-Ete Ibas, says a new 2025 budget is in the final stages of preparation. He adds that areas of focus will include healthcare, education, agriculture, infrastructure, and job creation. Ibas disclosed this on Thursday while hosting a delegation of the Rivers State National Assembly caucus led by Senator Barinada Mpigi at the Government House in Port Harcourt. Staying in Rivers State, women across the state have rallied in support of the suspended governor, Siminalayi Fubara, calling for his reinstatement. Gathering in Port Harcourt, the state capital, the women sought divine intervention, alleging that the judiciary had been compromised by individuals attempting to seize control of the state. They firmly believe the presidential declaration of a state of emergency was unjustified and must be reversed.
There was state of emergency in the north when Boko Haram was ravaging the nation. The governors were not removed. The elected governors were there, but security was beefed up. We were going about our normal businesses. Nothing happened. All what we heard from the blues, state of emergency, which is an aberration to the provision of the Constitution. If there is any way our leaders in the past have gone astray, we are asking for God's mercy.
We don't want bloodshed. We don't want trouble. But we are pleading to the government to give us peace. Restore our governor. Bring him back to seat. We will thank God for them because our governor is a peaceful man. He doesn't want trouble. That is why you see everywhere is calm. No matter the situation, Port Harcourt is calm, River State is calm. The 23 local government, they are all calm and peaceful.
Physically, we cannot meet them one-on-one, but people that are in charge have gone. And right now, we are here to pray and ask God to touch their hearts, the both parties, so that there will be resolution and restoration.
And now to stories outside our shores. Stocks in the U.S. and around the world are buckling under pressure as President Donald Trump's tariffs rattle investors globally. But while stock prices hit rock bottom, bond prices jumped as investors sought safe havens from the collapse in stocks, and analysts raised the odds of the U.S. and other countries sliding into recession. The bond rally comes even as the newly imposed tariffs threaten to bring renewed upward pressure on inflation. As stocks fell and economists ratcheted down their forecast for economic growth, bond futures trades raised the odds of the Federal Reserve stepping up the scope of interest rate cuts this year. The European Union, Canada, and other countries have already announced counter tariffs in response to Trump's move. This escalation of protectionist trade policies has sparked concerns about the potential for a global trade war, which could have devastating effects on the global economy. Two African countries, Madagascar and Lesotho, are among the top 5 countries facing the highest tariffs. Let's bring in Professor Anthony Keeler, Professor of Strategy and Development and Center Director of Commonwealth Institute of Advanced and Professional Studies. He joins me from Lagos. Thank you so much for coming on the program.
Yeah, good evening.
You saw this coming, didn't you?
Oh yes, I mean, we some of us saw it coming, and it was said. And I think, at some point, President Trump himself understands what might happen, that it is likely that these tariffs might do two things. Number one is lead to a recession, or at least some kind of contraction of the economy, and retaliation from other countries affected. There's something generally, some of us are, avoid against introduction of tariffs generally, but there's something that compounds the situation here, and that is the uncertainty that Donald Trump himself presents as a person, and that is reflected in his economy. If the markets were very clear of what the tariffs were going to be exactly, and how they're introduced and implemented, there'll be stability. But because the man and his administration are rather unstable, those are one of the things that are affecting the market overall. Then, the whole story of the tariff is yet to be looked at. Is it going to benefit Americans? Trump and his people think so. Economists do not agree. It's a sad thing that it affects people's lives, but otherwise, it will be a fascinating story to watch.
Right, and we're seeing that the U.S. is actually targeting countries where it has trade deficits. In Africa here, South Africa, the U.S.-South Africa trade deficit is upwards, billions of dollars, and Trump doesn't clearly like that. What should African countries begin to do now to prepare themselves for what obviously is the inevitable impact of these tariffs?
Well, I think there are two things. Number one is African countries, you look at themselves and see that while most of them belong to the same kind of basket, they're not exactly the same, in the same situation, you know. The country that was most hit is Lesotho, that was doing a lot of trade with America. South Africa was doing a lot of trade with America. This is the kind of thing that lets you know that some countries like Nigeria, Ghana, were actually not doing a lot of trade with America. So I guess, and America is a very interesting market. We're not trading there. You're probably not trading in most places. I think the first thing African leaders and countries need to look at is to understand that, you know, many of them were just talking. They were not doing when it comes down to figures. There is a minimum 10% tariff on any country in the world. That is what Donald Trump has introduced. And Nigeria, for example, is on 12. You know, which shows you that, you know, almost nothing was happening there. Not enough, definitely. And the trade that was happening for Nigeria, let's be a bit parochial here. And the trade that was happening for Nigeria are mainly natural resources, crude oil, gas, and things like that. So African countries need to go and tighten their belt and see how they can produce more. In reality, not many of them will be directly affected by this. Maybe South Africa, maybe Lesotho, maybe a few other countries. So what this is telling us is that we have a lot to do in terms of reliance, let alone exports.
Let's look at the impact this will have on AGOA, which is the African Growth and Opportunity Act, that provides eligible sub-Saharan African countries with duty-free access to the United States market for over 1,800 products. Analysts are saying that AGOA is going down the drain.
Yeah, it is going down the drain, and you're very right to pick it up. And this is where ideology and kind of mindset came up. AGOA was introduced by Clinton, you know, when he was there. The idea was to let African countries grow, since the mantle then was trade, not aid. So let us allow them to get their foot in the American market, and then without tariff. Mr. Donald Trump does not like all those things, and some of us warned about this, that he doesn't believe in those kind of let's boost trade, let's facilitate poor countries. No, you know, his persona and his administration is very transactional, to say what's in it for us. So AGOA is going down the drain. But again, something must have said about Trump, because he's very unpredictable. You cannot write anything about him in stone. He's a very personable, very transactional, very negotiation person. If African leaders can get together, the most articulate of them, make a case and take something to the table for him, there could be change. You know, Mr. Trump is somebody that changes his idea very easily. What we need are people that can understand him and know how to negotiate. And I think to that point, the silence of Nigerian government since this tariff has been come out is quite an annoying silence.
It is indeed. So going forward now, we are all expecting some kind of impact on African economies going forward. What should the ordinary people, especially, you know, traders, people who are involved with AGOA, what should they do? How should they prepare for the fallout?
Well, I think the quote-unquote the big countries that are affected by this are going to face some kind of recession or contraction of the economy, because places like in Lesotho that were producing things like textile, and the American trade was close to 10% of their own GDP. They're in big trouble. For countries like Nigeria, I think those who are planning to export to America need to focus on items and services that has inelastic demand, i.e. that Americans cannot do without. It's either they're selling to Americans or they're selling to people who have taste for African products. What they just need to do, if they can, would be to transfer the cost of the tariff to the importers and therefore to the consumers. So in a way, it's not going to affect very much. What it can do is to perhaps cut a bit of their profit if they're willing to share the tariff. Otherwise, they just transfer it.
Right.
It is bad in principle, but for countries that do little trading, and most of them done by small, medium enterprises, they can manage it. That's not a problem. Who's going to suffer the problem in a place like Nigeria will be big exporters,
right?
Like the new Dangote refinery, for example, and those who do gas and that kind of thing.
Okay.
So that's where the problem lies.
All right. Thank you so much. We're going to have to leave it there. Professor Anthony Kila, thank you so much for coming on the show tonight. The U.S. Department of State has announced the appointment of Masad Bulus as Senior Advisor for Africa. Senior Advisor Bulus also serves as Senior Advisor to the President on Arab and Middle Eastern Affairs. Senior Advisor Bulus and Deputy Assistant Secretary of State for African Affairs, Corina Sanders, will travel to the Democratic Republic of the Congo, Rwanda, Kenya, and Uganda starting from April the 3rd. During that trip, he and his team will meet with heads of state and business leaders to advance efforts for durable peace in Eastern Democratic Republic of the Congo and to promote U.S. private sector investment in the region. Let's take a break now. When we come back, we'll be talking business, sports, and entertainment. Do stay with us. Welcome back. It's time for some money talks with our business correspondent, Perpetual. Perpetual, what do we have today?
All right, so first, Nigeria has been able to get this $1.08 billion funding from the World Bank. And the good thing about it is we shouldn't necessarily be concerned about Nigeria's debt burden, especially because this is concessional in nature. So that offers some form of respite. When we come back, you get to know more about this loan.
Business news in association with Money Master PSB, the easy way to master your money.
The World Bank has approved $1.08 billion in concessional loans to bolster education, nutrition, and economic resilience in Nigeria. The financing includes $500 million for the Hope Edu initiative to improve foundational literacy and numeracy, $80 million for accelerating nutrition results, targeting maternal and child health, and $500 million for NG Cares to expand economic support for vulnerable households. These programs aim to address education access, food security, and poverty alleviation amid Nigeria's economic challenges, including subsidy reforms. The initiatives are expected to benefit millions and enhance long-term economic resilience. The U.S. is in talks to invest billions in Congo's mineral sector while seeking to end conflict in the country's east. U.S. Senior Advisor Masad Bulus, after meeting President Felix Tshisekedi in Kinshasa, confirmed progress on a minerals for security deal. While details remain undisclosed, Bulus suggested American companies would be involved, challenging China's dominance in Congo's cobalt and lithium markets. With M23 rebels seizing territory, Bulus emphasized that economic growth hinges on security and reaffirming Congo's territorial integrity. President Donald Trump's latest tariffs have triggered significant market volatility, with U.S. assets experiencing sharp declines. Equity index futures tumbled over 4%, while the dollar weakened against major currencies. European markets reacted mildly, with the STOXX Europe 600 down 1.9% and the euro gaining 2.2%. Analysts warn these protectionist policies could disproportionately harm the U.S. economy, prompting global investors to rethink U.S. exposure. The S&P 500, already down 3.6% this year, saw further declines, with major tech stocks, including those in the Magnificent Seven, under pressure. To the stock market now, the Nigerian equities market posted marginal gains on Thursday amid mixed sentiment in the market. Consequently, the month-to-date and year-to-date returns stand at minus 0.13% and plus 2.52% respectively. Now, let's take a look at a snapshot to see where we have there. We have that 1 basis point percentage change. CAP is at 66.16 trillion naira, and the All-Share Index is at 105,000. 525.26 psychological mark. Now let's take a look at the sectoral performance. For sectoral performance, the banking index retracted by 36 basis points. Recall that yesterday the banking index was the lone gainer at 7 basis points, but today, Thursday, it has retracted by 36 basis points, and you can actually blame First Holdco for that. There was sell-off in First Holdco, and there was also sell-off in FCMB. Now let's go to the insurance sector. The insurance sector outperformed the broader market, rising by 170 basis points. That's it right here. Away from insurance, let's come to the oil and gas. The oil and gas is down 19 basis points. You can see consumer goods also down 66 basis points, and the industrial goods is also down 2 basis points. This gives us a picture of what happened in the market today. I mean, I just mentioned that looking at the consumer goods, that was actually caused by PZ and Champion. They were the ones that weighed on that particular stock. But that's our offering on business tonight. I am Perpetua Fasome Peter. Tonight continues.
Business News in association with Money Master PSB, the easy way to master your money.
Welcome back, everybody. I have Udoka here from our sports desk with the latest, the 2025 Women's African Volleyball Championship, and I hear that Nigeria has just finished playing. What do we have?
Well, interesting games that are played today right there in Abuja, and also a colorful opening ceremony talking about the 2025 Women's African Volleyball Championships. I'll give you more details shortly.
Sports Update, brought to you by Corn Oil. Corn Oil, we go the extra mile.
Now, the opening ceremony of the 2025 Women's African Volleyball Championships was held today at the Moshood Abiola National Stadium in Abuja. Nigerian champions Nigeria Customs Service opened their campaign with a rousing 3-0 thrashing of Mayokani Evolution of Cameroon. Customs won all 3 sets, 25-18, 25-17, and 25-22, to shoot to the top of Pool A. In another match in the same group, Rwanda's APR staged an impressive comeback against Tunisia's CFC. Now, the Tunisians started strong, taking the first set 25-18, but it was APR that refused to back down, fighting back to claim a tight second set 26-24, then maintained their momentum with a 25-23 win to ensure that they won that game 3-1. Chief of Naval Staff Spikers are the other Nigerian team in the tournament. Now, Nasarawa State Governor Abdullahi Sule today received the National Sports Festival Touch of Unity from officials of the National Sports Commission. Now, the passing of the Touch of Unity ceremony ahead of the 22nd edition of the National Sports Festival, tagged Gateway 2025, to be held in Ogun State, kickstarts with President Bola Tinubu flagging off the Touch movement from the Federal Capital Territory, Abuja, in March. And it will move across the 35 states of the Federation before climaxing at the host state, Ogun State, which will signal the official commencement of the biennial multi-sports event. The 22nd edition of the National Sports Festival is scheduled to hold from the 16th to the 30th of May, with over 5,000 elite athletes and coaches expected to compete for medals in over 30 sport events. Delta State are the defending champions, winning the 2022 edition, which they hosted. And UEFA President Alexander Seferin said on Thursday it would be a bad idea for FIFA to expand the World Cup to 64 nations for the 2030 tournament. The 2026 edition in the United States, Mexico, and Canada will already see the format increase from 32 teams to 48, but the head of Uruguayan Football Federation, Ignacio Alonso, suggested further expanding the tournament at the last FIFA Council meeting in March. Football's global governing body said it had a duty to analyze the proposal, which European chief Seferin denounced at UEFA's Congress in Belgrade. The 2030 World Cup will be played on 3 continents, with Portugal, Spain, and Morocco the main hosts. Moving on to the EPL, Nottingham Forest manager Nuno Espirito Santo has confirmed Ola Aina will spend time on the sidelines due to a calf injury. Aina was forced off during Forest's 1-0 win over Manchester United at the City Ground on Tuesday night. Now, the 28-year-old, who was replaced by Alex Moreno 8 minutes after the break, left the stadium in crutches. Forest will be away to Aston Villa in the Premier League this weekend. And that's all on Sport Update. I am Udoka Njoko. Thank you for watching.
Sports Update, brought to you by Corn Oil. Corn Oil, we go the extra mile.
Welcome back. Adora joins me now with the latest in entertainment news. Adora, what do we have tonight?
Yeah, well, Rema is making the news because he's the most streamed song on YouTube for the first quarter of 2025.
Is that like globally or just amongst Nigerians?
Just Nigeria. Just Nigeria.
Still big.
But I'll definitely bring you all the details.
All right.
Entertainment news in association with Glow Unlimited.
All right, straight into entertainment now. Afrobeat sensation Rema is the most streamed Nigerian artist on YouTube for the first quarter of 2025. According to data from Debut Hub, Rema amassed 223 million streams, fueled by his impressive catalog, including the record-breaking hit Calm Down, which surpassed 1 billion streams. His latest single, Baby, Is This a Crime?, also made waves, ranking as the second most streamed Nigerian song of 2025 on YouTube with 14 million streams. Now, Burna Boy ranked second with 171 million streams. Arya Star follows closely with in third place with 169 million streams. Davido lands fourth with 113 million streams, while Wizkid rounds up the top five with 102 million streams. Now, Adeshawa, there's been a debate that we should just add Rema to the big four, because right now he's making numbers, he's killing it. No, but the big three, we have Wizkid, Davido, and Burna Boy. So they said they should add Rema, make it big four. What do you think?
It's great, but like, isn't Wizkid at the bottom of the chain of this chart right now?
Well, he's on this list just for the first quarter of 2025.
I'm just saying, listen, numbers don't lie.
I'm just saying that we should put Wizkid on.
Oh, I would never say that, but Wizkid is the boss. Like, well, come on, man. Also, did you see that deal he just signed with Formula One?
Yes.
That's big.
That's big.
That's not Coke and Fanta.
You said it. But did you notice that?
Guys, don't come from me.
Oh God. Let's talk about Arya Star was on that list as well. And people on social media were talking about the fact that what happened to Tiwa Savage? Why isn't she on that list?
Oh my God! Please, take me out of this conversation.
We'll leave it there.
I don't have my facts yet. You get what I mean? I have to write on the facts.
Yeah,
when we have the facts,
we'll have this conversation again.
Absolutely. Come back after and when I get my facts.
All right. Well, that's all I have on entertainment tonight.
Entertainment news in association with Glow Unlimited.
And that's the news tonight. Please send your eyewitness report to the WhatsApp number coming up on your screen right now. Follow us on all social media platforms. We are at News Central TV. You can watch News Central live on DSTV channel 422, GoTV channel 23, Start Times channel 274, AVO TV, and on YouTube. Thanks a lot for watching. I'm Adeshawa Josh. I'll see you on Friday.